Hey babes, and welcome to Gore and Gossip. I'm Nicole.
And I'm Jordan, and this is your weekly deep dive into all things terrifying, true crime cases, cold-blooded killers, and the occasional creepy conspiracy.
Plus haunted dolls, cursed mirrors, and that one time your aunt swore her house was built on a portal to the underworld.
If it's bloody, bizarre, or just plain bone-chilling, we're talking about it.
And yes, we're bringing the gossip too, because what's a murder without a little side-eye?
So lock the doors, light a candle,
and let's get into it.
Hello!
Hi y'all! How is everyone? I hope you guys are all having good weeks. We're sorry we're late. It has been a bit of a hectic week for the both of us.
Definitely.
Yeah. We'll leave it at that. It's been a little bit of a hectic week for the both of us. Yeah. So we are finally getting to it, and I have an interesting one for you guys this week. Interesting, but also very, very sad. It's kind of similar-ish to our Jasmine Fiore case, if you remember that one. If you have not checked that one out, definitely go do so. That one is a wild fucking ride. But same premise of a beautiful woman just losing her life, unfortunately.
Her light was shining too bright, and a man could not handle it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, pretty much. So I think we're just going to get right into it today. This week, we're talking about a case that isn't necessarily full-on Hollywood, but more fame adjacent. It involves bad relationships, restraining orders, obsession, and a tiny man who simply could not handle being told no. And at the center of this case, like I just said, was a woman who was not afraid of love, sex, and therapy. This is the murder of Dr. Amy Harwick. And yes, I'm adding doctor because she deserved that title.
She deserved it. She worked hard for it, and that's what she is.
Yep. So on February 15th, 2020, so literally right before the world erupted into pure chaos, the Los Angeles Police Department responded to an urgent call around 1:15 in the morning from a frantic and concerned roommate who had heard screaming. More specifically, he had heard a woman yelling, "He's attacking me." When officers arrived to the home in Hollywood Hills on Mound Street, they found 38-year-old Dr. Amy Harwick gravely injured beneath her third-story balcony. And at first glance, they probably thought that this wasn't foul play and just a tragic accident. Lead detective Scott Masterson even mentions this in an interview later on. But it wasn't an accident. Amy was indeed attacked in her room and thrown over the balcony, later succumbing to her injuries at the hospital where she passed. Also, sorry if I sound nasally. I have some kind of congestion all of a sudden as I sniffle into the mic. Hold on.
That's okay. I just want to say that this is one of the most terrifying 2020 episodes that I watched. Yes. I was blown away the whole time, and
yeah,
it's just so sad.
Yeah, it's literally crazy. Before we talk more about the murder and everything to follow, let's talk about the woman at the center of this. And I give you so much about her because she is an accomplished, badass woman.
She is.
Amy Harwick was born May 20th, 1981, and was adopted around the age of 4 by her adoptive parents, Tom and Penny Harwick. She grew up in Lansdale, Pennsylvania, and in an interview with her parents and her brother Chris, they mentioned how Amy was really into heavy metal music and rock music. Her parents joked that she had turned them into metalheads or headbangers, and I thought that was so funny. Her brother mentions it too, and I think this was from the 48 Hours interview, and they were like, "Are you serious?" And they were like, "Yes." I thought that was just the sweetest thing. They also mentioned about how, so when they brought home her brother, she was kind of into him, and then she was like, "So when is he going back?" And they were like, he's not going back, honey. But she had a pretty good relationship with her brother. I just think that was so funny. It reminded me of when I was born and my brother told, apparently, like, when he was with my grandparents and my dad's parents, and he like told my grandfather that when my grandfather told him like, oh, it's a girl, and he was so upset, and he was like, no.
I was like, no.
He was so upset he wanted a brother.
Aw.
Sorry, you have two sisters. They said that she would go to concerts all the time. Like, she would be at concerts all the time. She was constantly getting backstage and just meeting performers. Like, she was just so into the scene, and they knew she was just meant for a little bit more. And after graduating high school, Amy actually met a drummer named Tommy Decker, who she had dated for some time, long distance, and Tommy lived out in California. Finally, in 2001, Amy had decided she wanted to move out to California to be with Tommy, and she ended up getting married to him very soon after that. They were in love by all accounts. The couple was only married, though, for 3 years before they called it quits and parting ways. It was somewhat amicable, seemed okay, just it didn't work out. And honestly, that tends to happen sometimes when you have one partner who's traveling a lot and one who, it just happens. Sometimes life just gets in the way and it doesn't work out. But she didn't just go to California for a man. This was a dream of hers. Like, she wanted to be there. And he was just that love of that vehicle of being with him was literally that vehicle of like getting her there, basically. And like, not that she used him. Yeah. It just gave her the reason to go out there more.
Right.
So while she was living out there, she ended up going to college at California State Polytechnic University, where she got a bachelor's in psychology. Then she went on to get her master's in clinical psychology at Pepperdine University, and then she finished with a PhD from the Institute of Advanced Study of Human Sexuality. Now, I do have to note that this is technically a non-accredited like school, so take it as you will, but like, she graduated from there. She technically has a PhD. They do call her doctor. So
doesn't matter. She still went to school.
Yeah,
still considered a PhD.
She still did all of the things. Like, she does move on to like become like a therapist or a counselor, basically. So she becomes a counselor and all that. We'll get to it. But during this time, to help pay for her education, at her expenses, she worked multiple side jobs. Her main job was as a fitness instructor. And as a fitness instructor, she released a fitness DVD called Amy Nicole's Fit to Rock.
That is so badass.
Girl, yeah.
That is awesome.
Go girl. Also, if I haven't already said it, she was drop dead fucking gorgeous. Like, we'll post like a picture like for you guys so that you can see. Drop dead fucking gorgeous. Like, she had black as black hair, these beautiful piercing eyes, like just absolutely gorgeous, and a personality to fucking match. Like, she was just all around. She also worked as a go-go dancer. She bartended and she modeled.
Yes.
She even modeled for Playboy. And as a fucking side note on Playboy, there's something connected. Like, we've talked about this before, because Jasmine Fiore also modeled for Playboy, and look what happened to her. We all know about the Playboy series that I can't think of her name right now, but yep. That she did on them, and there is literally something like sinister and like bad energy attached to Playboy. I am convinced. Like, I think the only reason that some of the celebrities have gotten out of it is even like scathing by, because like Kim Kardashian like modeled for Playboy, and like look at what happened to her in Paris. Like, she didn't lose her life, but like look at what happened to her. You know what I mean? Like, there's something
brewing there. Like, yeah, not good.
Yeah, like, it's a good accomplishment, but like, still. Yeah. After finishing her PhD, she became who we know now as Dr. Amy Harwick. I literally can't speak. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know. A very successful marriage therapist, a marriage and family therapist in West Hollywood, where she had a focus on family and sex counseling. She appeared on several podcasts, TV shows, like talk shows, and even created her own YouTube channel where she like gives advice and talks about like counseling in these areas. This is only the tip of the iceberg of her accomplishments. It's a good majority of them, but that's only the tip. She also was interested in acting, writing, and producing. In 2014, she published her book, The New Sex Bible for Women, The Complete Guide to Sexual Self-Awareness and Intimacy. And let me tell you, I took a look. Pretty interesting.
Any tips?
Yeah.
To share?
Pretty interesting. What?
Any tips to share?
No, I didn't like get deep into it, but like,
okay,
pretty interesting.
Took a quick look.
Yeah. Then, and I do intend to like look further into it because I was like, this sounds pretty interesting. Like, I want to know like what this is about because I'm not like someone that reads like self-help or like any of those kinds of like books. It's just not my wheelhouse. But I was like, listen, I can get on board with anything that has to do with that. So I don't know. We'll see. I'll let you guys know. Then in 2015, she was featured in the documentary Addicted to Sexting. She was also in Devil's Muse in 2007, a show called Blabberbox in 2011, and Midnight 2020 in 2016. So she basically like did like a lot of indie stuff. So like those were all like little indie films that she did, but she had like a hand in some of it. She acted, like she had a hand in a little bit of production here and there. So she did it a little bit. She also appeared in an episode of MTV's True Life, as well as Braxton Family Values.
Why do I like vaguely remember that True Life episode?
I think I do too. Yeah, I was like, huh. It's literally like one about like sex, like I think like sex addiction or something like that. I forget.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll look it up like while I'm talking, but I remember something about that. On top of that Playboy shoot that she did, she also appeared in other magazines like Men's Health, Women's Health, and Iron Man magazine. If you've never heard of it, it's basically just along those lines of like Men's Health and stuff like that. But by all accounts, Amie was just this really great person to be around. Many people who knew her, like her friends, her family's coworkers, even some of her exes, all described her as just this like selfless person with just a brilliant mind. She had even been briefly engaged to Drew Carey for about a year before they had parted ways. If you don't know who Drew Carey is, I'm going to be really disappointed because the only thing that comes up when you, well, not the only thing, but the main thing that comes up is he's the host of Price is Right. That is not where we know Drew Carey from. We know him from Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Yes.
And if you don't know what that is, you're wrong, and I'm sorry. You need to watch it.
You need to watch it. Also, he loved her.
Yes. Oh my God. I talk about it more later. Like we'll get into a little bit more of that in a little bit because it's a little important later. But yeah, he definitely loved her. And she definitely loved him. It was very amicable. Yeah, when they broke up. I'll talk about that more later. But yeah, if you haven't watched Whose Line Is It Anyway, you need to watch it. It's so funny. They like did like a revive of it like a few years ago, and so Dag does not think it's funny. I think it's fucking hysterical.
I love the reboot.
And so the funny. Older
episodes.
Oh my God.
My goodness.
I will tell you guys, if you haven't seen it, it's a bit unhinged, a little inappropriate, a lot inappropriate. But like it's so funny. I cannot. My dad used to like love it and we used to watch it together all the time. I was way too young to be watching it, but I didn't understand. So like it was fine. But it was so funny. I loved that show. All right, my little tangent about that stuff. I'm sorry. She also had briefly dated Marilyn Manson, which is just wild, but it also encapsulates like how deep into like the heavy rock and like metal like she was like in. And that's not like the only. She dated like quite a few like rock stars. Not like anybody like fully of like high fame, but like people look up there. If you're in the scene, you probably would know. And of course, let's be so honest. Like I said, she was just drop dead fucking gorgeous. So pretty, like literally beautiful.
Literally like a goddess level. Like she is gorgeous.
Yeah, so, absolutely stunning. But despite living so close to fame and in Hollywood Hills, Amie was not the party girl that you would think. She was on the board of directors for Rock to Recovery, which, according to their website, is an organization that helps people transform their lives through the powerful experience of writing, playing, and performing music as a group. She believed heavy in sobriety. She was educated, she had her doctorate, she was building a life that was stable, successful, and intentional. She knew what she wanted, and she went for it. But like so many women in these stories, she had an ex who refused to let go. Gareth Pursehouse. And I'm not saying it with a lisp. I'm not saying his name is Gareth, like TH, not Garrett. Gareth.
What kind of name is that?
I know. To be honest, I couldn't find a lot on him, and I'm not mad about it. He doesn't deserve to be spoken about in a good manner. But for reference, we obviously have to talk about him a little bit. And all that I could really find on him was he was born in 1978 in California, where he grew up. He was a photographer and a software engineer. And he was like a photographer like in Hollywood. And that's literally it. That's all I could find. Like there was literally nothing else about this man that I could find. Like I searched and I just didn't see anything. And that's fine with me. You know what? It's fine. We don't need to talk about him like that. She met Gareth Pursehouse in 2000. I will say, I think the 2020 interview gets into a little bit about him.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Not like a crazy ton. They talk a lot about like his crazy background. Definitely check it out. Amie met Gareth Pursehouse in 2009 at a party in Hollywood that she was working at as a hostess. Gareth was a nightlife, so this was during her like college era. Like this is when she was like still in college. He was a nightlife photographer who, according to one of Amy's friends, Grace Stanley, in an interview on A Plan to Kill, that he was immediately taken with her. They very quickly moved in together, and at first things seemed to be good until they weren't. He basically love bombed her. Like that's what happened. According to Amy's friends and family, Gareth very quickly became possessive over Amie, constantly checking in on her, constantly wanting to know her location, who she was with, yada, 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 the whole nine, to the point that she had to call, and then, of course, it escalated. And it escalated so much that he became physical with her, to the point that Amie had to call the police on him multiple times.
What the fuck?
They had only been together for a few short years, like 18 months to the max, basically, before she finally broke it off in 2011. So they met like some point in 2009, and then by 2011, she had called it off. But this tiny man that Gareth was, couldn't take no for an answer. So he continued to harass Amie. A mutual friend named Rudy Torres said in an interview with 2020 that Gareth was constantly trying to get into contact. It might have been 48 hours, I lied, but I was looking at both of them, so I apologize if I have the wrong one. But Gareth was constantly trying to get into contact with her. Rudy had told Gareth to leave her alone multiple times, and because he told him to leave her alone, Gareth cut him off. He stopped being friends with him.
Oh my God.
That's how crazy this fucking guy is, that like he was told to leave her alone by a mutual friend. Like, bro, just like leave her alone, like let her live her life, like you go live yours. And he was like, nah, fuck you, and cut him off.
What the fuck?
What? Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, literally.
Finally, in 2012, Amie had filed a restraining order against Pursehouse. But this didn't stop him. He didn't give a shit. Especially because the restraining order ended up being dismissed and was expired. So you know how like when you file for one, they give you an emergency and then that person cannot be near you for a certain amount of time until your hearing, like you go to your hearing basically. It was dismissed, and then of course the emergency one was expired.
What the hell?
This happens. I literally say, like, what else is new? Like,
Right.
my notes.
This happens
Because,
all the
like,
time.
this happens so frequently, and this is how shit like this ends up happening every fucking time, because we just ignore it. Why? It's a restraining order. It's a restraint. It's literally a fucking piece of paper. Like, just fucking give it to them. Give it to them. Like, if it's something that, like, we could possibly drop later, if everything's fine, then sure, we would drop it later. But, like, just fucking give it. I don't understand.
Like, there's clearly a reason why she even got it in the first place.
Yeah.
Like, there has to be some semblance of her being fearful of him being a psychopath.
Right. Well,
And then this just
because
proves that like the judge should have done that.
Yeah, exactly. Because a few years after their breakup, Amy's home was broken into. There was no proof that it was him, obviously, but according to Amy's parents, they all believed that it was Gareth. Everyone believed that it was him. Amy's mom, Penny, even said that she had lost a job as a youth counselor because her employer received nude photos of her anonymously.
What?
So she got fired from a job because of this, like, because of a fucking disgusting, narcissistic piece of shit. And again, it's no proof that it's him, but, like, who the fuck else would it be?
Right. Who the fuck else would it be?
Now, I had mentioned that Amy was briefly engaged to Drew Carey. And I'm bringing that back up, like I said, because now, despite the fact that it was amicable, in the interview that Penny Harwick did with 48 Hours, she mentions that Amy was very upset. According to Penny, Amy was so heartbroken over the fact that their relationship ended, despite her being the one who ended it. So Amy was the one who broke things off. In that interview, Drew Carey, he was interviewed after she was killed, and he mentions about how, like, when he first saw her, like, he was just immediately, like, swept off his feet. He said that his first thought was, like, I'm gonna marry her. And, like, he just loved her. There's a picture of her on The Price is Right with him, like, after they got engaged. And, like, the two of them were just so cute together. Do you know that he still is not with anybody to this day?
Yeah.
According to the Google.
Because he was so heartbroken over Amy, and those interviews, my God,
it's crushing.
He's
sobbing. It's crushing. It's so crushing. Like, literally, it breaks my heart. And Penny her mom believes that she thinks that the fame aspect was getting in the way. And while Amy didn't necessarily want to be famous, she was okay with being somewhat in the spotlight. And we've seen that with the stuff that she's done over the years. But, like, let's be real. I love Drew Carey and all that he is, but he's not necessarily an A-lister. So he's not being somebody who's followed every second of the day, right? Like, that's just not the case with him. Like, yes, he's a very famous comedian. Like, we all know who he is, or should all know who he is, but, like, it's just not, like, that kind of following. And that's, like, better. But it just was still too much for her. And it seemed like at this point she was trying to maybe back out of that brighter spotlight because someone might have been watching, someone who had already hurt her, and it just might have been a little too much for her. At least that's what Penny believed. And I will say, I think I agree. And again, this is when I talk about, like, his interview and, like, how he mentioned, like, how he met her, like, how he wanted to marry her. He had nothing but amazing things to say about her. And, like, again, you could just tell how much he loved her. And maybe she didn't feel as deeply about him, but if you're thinking like I am, I don't buy it. I think she was scared.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, she had every right to be. I, like, truly believe that, like, that was the case. Like, I just didn't feel like the way that he spoke about her, like, of course we're only getting one side, but it just didn't feel like
that's what like was happening. Was the case.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean that things, like, don't end for, like, other reasons. Like, maybe it just, like, wasn't right. Mm-hmm. Even though they loved each other, like, it just didn't work, and, like, that's fine. But I don't know, this just feels like that wasn't it. Because 1 month before Amy was murdered, she attended the X-Biz Awards in Los Angeles, where she ran into none other than Gareth Pursehouse. Oh, and mind you, they were engaged in, like, 2018, 2019. Like, that's, like, roughly when it broke. So, like, this was, like, a year before, like, this all happened. After not seeing Gareth for years, like literally being almost a decade since they had broken up, because like now we're in 2020, they had broken up in like 2010, 2011, depending upon like the timeline frame where you look at it. This one chance encounter would reignite his obsession and the probable anger that he felt towards her rejection of him. Because remember, a narcissist cannot handle rejection.
Not at all.
They cannot. And that brings us to Valentine's Day 2020. Amy's roommate and friend, Michael Harmon, told police that Amy had gone out for Valentine's Day with her friends earlier in the evening. Michael said that he had dozed off, and sometime around 9-ish, he was awoken by a small crashing sound upstairs, saying that he thought it might have been Amy coming home, that she dropped something, or it was her cat pushing something off of a counter or table. He really didn't think much of it because there was no other noise. And honestly, neither would I, especially if my roommate had a cat. I used to live in an apartment building, and my upstairs neighbors had a cat, and I can tell you probably on more than 2 hands the amount of times that this cat would knock something over, and then you would hear him like run away, like every single time.
That's every night with Einstein. I feel bad for my downstairs neighbors.
Yeah.
He knocks over things all the time.
Because I knew it was the cat, I wouldn't care, because like it's
you wouldn't.
It's an animal. They're mischievous. They like to get into things, so it was fine. But it was funny because we would like hear them yell at him. You would just like hear like a crash, and then you would hear his I forget what his name was. You hear like the name, and then you would just hear him like running away. Off. It was so funny. And we would see him in like the sliding glass door that looked out over the street.
Aww.
We would see him like all the time. We were like, oh my god, he's so cute. And he would just like stare down at everybody. The cutest. Well, where was I? Okay. Again, with no other follow-up commotion, Michael just drifted off back to sleep. Makes sense. It was alleged by police, though, that after Gareth had broken in, he laid, because, spoiler alert, it was obviously Gareth.
Obvious.
That he had laid in Amy's bed to wait for her. So they, like, the way the bedding was, I guess, made them assume that it had been laid in, and she wasn't there. So, like,
what the fuck?
Yeah. Like, it was, like, freshly laid in, I think they believed. So, like, that's what they allege. They're not actually sure because he never actually said, but that's what they believe.
That shows premeditation, right?
Oh, that's not it. And this wasn't the only premeditated decision he made. There was a lot more. Later during the investigation, police had found footage from the neighbor's security camera on their back patio showing a man, later obviously found out to be Gareth, wearing gloves and a cap, who turned the camera away. And then that same camera showed him leaving.
Idiot. You fucking idiot.
Yeah. Well, thank God for that. Around 1 a.m. on February 15th, Amy had came home, but she wasn't alone. Michael was woken up by the sound of Amy screaming upstairs and by what sounded like a struggle. In a panic, he said in his interview with 48 Hours that he frantically looked for his phone, but he couldn't find it. So he started yelling to hopefully scare off the intruder. Which, like, fair. Like, it's upstairs. Like, it's in a different, you know what I mean? Different area. Right. So, like, he just, like, started yelling. He said that he then ran to the neighbors and banged on the door trying to get help. They weren't answering. So he finally like ran out to the road, and there happened to be somebody there, and he used their phone to call 911. So like he's in a panic. Like, and when he talks about this, like he was in a panic trying to figure out like to call 911 to help her. I know some people are going to be like, well, why didn't he just run up there and help her? When you are in that kind of a moment, that is not always somebody's first thought. Right. Their first thought sometimes is to try to get help. Because they don't know what's happening, and it could whatever's happening could now happen to them.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I'm not saying like, oh, don't protect yourself, but like,
come on,
that was his thought.
That was what he was thinking about.
Penny, her mom, Amy's mom, like in the interview, they asked like how, like, because he still feels bad about it. Like Michael still feels like horrible that she's not here anymore, and her mom was like, no, he did the right, like that's what he was supposed to do, was like go get help. Like what else could he have really done? Because like he also could have lost his life. So like her mom is very much like, no, he did the right thing. Like that's what you were supposed to do, was go get help. The police arrived pretty quickly, but unfortunately not quickly enough. The scene they arrived at was Amie beneath her balcony, gravely injured and barely clinging onto life. Police spoke to a pretty distraught Michael Herman and neighbors while they assessed the scene. Amie had suffered blunt force trauma and signs of strangulation. Prosecutors later said that she had been strangled before being thrown over the balcony.
Oh my God.
And remember, guys, like she didn't like die like on impact or anything like that. Like she died later in the hospital. One of the pieces of evidence they found at the scene was a syringe, like a syringe and needle, that had a yellowish brown substance in it. Initially, the police thought that it could have been heroin. When the officer asked Michael Herman about if Amie was using, he responded in a way that changed their course of thought. Michael told police that Amie was completely sober. She didn't even drink. Because if you remember, like I said, she worked with Rock to Recovery. She believed in sobriety, like heavily. So let that sink in for a second. He didn't just lose control. He made a choice. Multiple, in fact. This was deliberate. Like everything that he did was deliberate. This information had the police looking for a suspect. Now, Michael Herman was actually bleeding at like on his like abdomen area. I think it's me just like moving around. I keep hearing a noise.
So I think it's just you.
But it turned out when Michael had ran, and like rightfully so, like obviously, like you see like blood on somebody, you're gonna be like, what were you doing? That? Like what's guy? Yeah. So obviously they were suspicious of that. But it turned out that when he ran over to the neighbor's house, he had to hop the fence, and he cut his abdomen, like he cut himself like trying to hop the fence to go like get help. So they pretty much ruled him out pretty quickly. After reviewing the crime scene for some time, the police finally found their smoking gun. And also the lead detective that I mentioned, Detective Masterson, when he looked at the syringe, like especially after Michael said that like it was not she did not do drugs, he very quickly knew that it was not heroin, and he knew that it was something else. But he didn't know what it was. He just knew it was not that. They finally found their smoking gun, which was a broken corner of the balcony window that had blood on it. DNA. So he had broken part of like the door, the like glass door that was up there, to try to get in, and that was how he got into her room. He like broke the window. They finally had something. The police did ask Michael if he knew of anyone who might have wanted to hurt her. And while Michael couldn't remember Gareth's name, he did tell police about her ex-boyfriend that she had an expired restraining order against, and that like she had a tumultuous relationship with. He even gave Robert Koshland's name for them to ask about, because he was one of Amy's closest friends. And Robert did speak to Detective Masterson, telling him that it was Gareth Pursehouse, who was the obsessive ex, and that they needed to find him immediately. Unfortunately, Detective Masterson had to break the news to Robert Koshland and Michael Herman that Amie had died in the hospital. Masterson had also had to get into contact with Amy's parents and brother to break the news to them, because they lived in Pennsylvania, so he had to figure out like how to get in contact with them. And when they talk about like them finding out, it was heartbreaking. But now, with a name and a DNA sample to process, investigators were closing in on him. Within 13 hours of the initial call and like everything happening, Detective Masterson and LAPD went to pay Gareth Pursehouse a visit. When Gareth answered the door, Masterson said that he tried to play like he didn't know why they were there. He was trying to like play coy. They asked him some questions, and he basically tried to evade them, and one of them was about Gareth's black eye that he had. He had gotten a black eye. And Detective Masterson was like, oh, what happened? You know, what happened to your eye? And he's tried to say, like, oh, it's from some, like, home improvements that I did. And Detective Masterson was not buying it. He literally said to him, like, oh, well, you better hire a contractor then. And I was dead. Like, I was like, oh my God, that was so funny.
Clearly you're not good at work.
Yeah, obviously. So he was like, well, you better hire a contractor then.
Oh my God.
But he knew, and he knew that they were going to get him. And they did. They did get him. When the DNA sample came back as Pursehouse's blood, LAPD arrested him immediately. Like, they got everything they needed, got it squared away, and they went and arrested him immediately. He was arrested and charged with the murder of Amy Harwick on February 19th, 2020. So they moved fast. She was killed like early hours, February 15th. Just a couple days later, they went and they were able to arrest him. That's how quickly that went. The police did search Gareth's house, and in this search, they found a syringe with the same substance as what they found at the crime scene. The FBI did do an analysis of the syringes, and it was found to be liquid nicotine. So that's why it was that color. This led police to believe his plan was to inject Amie and let her pass slowly without anyone knowing. So again, premeditation. But what Gareth didn't plan for was that obviously Amie tried to put up a fight. Hence the black eye and why there was no liquid nicotine in her system. He was unable to get her with a syringe. And he had basically just abandoned plan when she obviously tried to fight back, hearing, you know, somebody else yelling from downstairs. Like, these were things that he did not. This was premeditated, but he obviously did not plan well enough, and thank God for that.
Yeah, thank God he wasn't a smart ass. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They always think that they're smarter than they are, and it always bites them in the ass. Because it's supposed to. Karma's a fucking bitch, y'all.
He's a bitch.
Yeah. Now, here's where it gets a little legally messy. Gareth pleaded not guilty. We love that.
What?
His defense leaned into mental health issues.
Oh my
They said,
God.
He just diminished capacity. He can't, you know, he didn't know. Get so fucked.
Get fucked.
Yeah.
Jesus. What?
Yeah. The prosecution, they focused on the premeditation.
Yeah.
History of stalking, escalation. This was not a snap decision. It was not. Like, you can clearly see that he fucking moved the camera.
He moved the fucking camera.
Yeah.
He knew what he was doing.
It's like literally like ring footage, and you like see him like try to move it. Disgusting. In 2023, almost 3 years after Amy's murder, Gareth Pursehouse was finally convicted of first-degree murder and burglary. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, where he now still sits to waste away and fucking die in there.
Rotten piss, Gareth.
Quite literally. And there you have it. A woman who built a career helping others heal, killed by a man who couldn't handle her boundaries. Not a jealous lover, not a crime of passion, a calculated act by someone who thought he still had ownership over her. Amy Harwick deserved decades more of life, love, and impact that she had to give. Her story, though, ends on a balcony in the Hollywood Hills because a man couldn't handle the word no.
All of these men having all of these gorgeous, like, girlfriends and wives, and them then killing them. I'm like, obviously, there's something wrong.
Fucking wrong.
With the way that they think about their romantic partner. Like, they see their success and then they're like, oh, I'm jealous. Oh, you told me no. I'm pissed off at you. Now you gotta die. I'm like, that's not how the world works.
Yeah. And he was like not obviously like what she usually went for. Like, they mentioned this in the interview too, I think with Rudy, where they asked him about like, oh, like that wasn't her usual, like in 48 hours. They're like, oh, that's not like who she usually goes for, right? And he was like, no, she usually went for musicians. and like kind of like laughed about it, and he was like, but she was trying to like change that. And like, because musicians just have a stigma. Yeah, there's such like a stigma there, and like it doesn't always
doesn't always fly.
It can be a lot. So she was trying to like phase out of that and try to get with somebody that was maybe a little bit more normal or something, whatever she felt like she was trying to do. So she met him, and she, unfortunately, he was not at all fucking normal. Literally, this guy is so fucking unhinged that, oh my God, I have to find it. So he went on one of those, I can't remember the name of it, literally days before this happened, like January 30th. So like, what is it, like almost 2 weeks before this happened. He went on one of those like live comedy things. I forget what the name of it was, where like you get like picked from the audience, and you get to like go up on stage for like a minute and like do like your little like comedy bit as like an introduction or like whatever. Like you get to like get picked to like do it if you're like an aspiring comedian. And like if you've ever seen those videos, they're so fucking funny. He chose to use, so he ended up going to one. He happened to get picked, and instead of going up there and like doing like a little comedy act, he used that entire time to attack and go after the like verbally the like the host of the show.
What?
And they literally like, they were on record like talking about it after, and like after everything happened, and they were like, this guy literally gave like psychopath, like what, like a psycho, like the American Killer kind of vibes. Like that's how fucking like off the walls this guy was. And I was like, this is like almost 2 weeks, like within like days of before he like did that. Like
what the fuck?
Who the fuck does that? Like what the fuck? Like that's how unhinged this guy was.
Jesus.
Yeah, literally so fucking crazy. And actually, before I like end, I wanted to mention that in Drew Carey's interview, he also mentions like that, basically like what I said about not that, but about what I said about how like she builds a career in helping others and like trying to help them through like difficult times, like getting past like dealing with a narcissistic ex, like abuse and stuff like that. And like she ended up succumbing to like what she tried to help people from. She can't remember her name, but she was a client of hers, like somewhat famous, and she had like tells her story about how like Amie was like her counselor for a time, and she told Amie about like what she went through, and she was like, obviously like she never once told me like what she went through, because you're not supposed to get personal like that. And she was like, so to just find out after the fact of like she also went through that and like and ended up killing her, like, was very upsetting.
It's so upsetting. She was a PhD baddie.
Yeah, for sure. It was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that is the story of Amy Harwick and a tiny, tiny little man who is now rotting away.
As he should.
Yes. Well, whether it's crime, conspiracy, or just straight up spooky, we're going to keep talking about it. Like, follow, comment, and stay tuned each week for new episodes, because it'll just keep getting darker and spookier from here. Also send in your stories.
Send them in
to goreandgossippod at gmail.com. goreandgossippod at gmail.com. So stay nosy and stay spooky, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
Bye, guys. Thank you.